Hello again. I'm back, coming at you from the rabbit tractor, where it's quieter than inside my house. Hopefully you can hear me with the rain coming down. Back to talk about living off the grid while living on the grid. I posted about this a couple of days ago and was feeling a real swelling of readiness. If this is a conversation that's alive for the collective right now, many of us are living it. Let's talk about it. And then in the day or so since, I've continued to hear the news of what's happening in Texas, and a lot of my neighbors here in Oregon are going on a week without power, and I was like, geez, is this in really poor taste to talk about living off the grid while living on the grid? Because I have power right now. My life's pretty comfortable right now. We have running water, we're safe, we're warm, our food's not spoiled. But that's like one of my spiritual gifts, is being able to say things that are borderline or sometimes totally inappropriate, putting honesty over tact and just speaking what feels like truth. So I feel like this is a conversation that's time is now. So we're going to do it. And if you're in the middle of dealing with broken pipes and spoiled refrigerator stuff, maybe this is not the time to listen to this, and I totally get that, and see you later, or maybe never, that's fine. But if you're in a spot where you want to think about this stuff now, think about preparing for next time, think about just what life might be like living a little bit more off the grid, but without moving to a cabin in the woods. Or maybe you are getting ready to move to a cabin in the woods. Congratulations. Let's have that conversation. So, noticing. We always start, whenever we're thinking about making a change, in that place where we are, right? And it's often a pretty uncomfortable place, at least for me. When I'm ready to make a change, it's not because things are so great and I want them to be even better. It's usually because stuff pretty much sucks and it just has to get a little bit better, or I just can't even. So from whatever place you're in, just noticing the grid. This morning when you woke up, what was the first thing you interacted with that required electricity? For me, it was my phone. Maybe it was a coffee maker or an alarm clock, a light switch. In some way, you probably stepped into the grid and touched it somehow. What was that? And then let's take a minute and think about grid, right? When I say grid, what do I mean? Grid, in this sense, I mean pretty much all the things that you pay for, that if you didn't pay for, they would cut them off. So that could be electricity, that could be food, how it's produced and distributed, that could be water if you're on city water. Anything that is something you need to survive, that is somehow capitalized and somebody else controls your access to it, right? That is something that I would consider on the grid for the purpose of this conversation. I freaking love the grid, man. I love paying the bills and getting the services. It's awesome. I had a teacher once recommend to me, when you write the check, back in the days when we paid bills writing checks, I only write 3 now a month. She's like, put the check in an envelope and put some glitter in there, and in the memo line, write, "Thank you for the electricity," and send that to the power company. And I love that. I love that. I don't know how the power company felt about that, opening up all these checks from all these women full of glitter, but, thank you, grid. I love you. But I also want to be able to live a little bit less at its mercy, right? So continue throughout the day to just notice that grid, those places where you are plugged in. It sounds kind of matrixy, I know. Where are you connected? As you eat a meal, as you drive your car, what is it that you are doing throughout your day that if something big and bad, or just big, let's leave bad out of this, if something massively shook everything, could literally shake it, we're waiting for the big one in Oregon, right? Any kind of natural disaster, any sort of big storm, an insurrection, let's say, something could shake it. What would be disrupted in your day? And I think, for myself, I notice even living out in the woods and raising rabbits and, producing a lot of my own food and being really, pretty out there as far as, you know, it's half an hour to a grocery store and an hour to my dentist. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot of ways that I'm plugged in and connected with the grid. So getting off the grid, like, it's not about, like, being totally self-sufficient and living alone on Walden Pond. Like, that is really not how things work. And what I'm thinking here is, like, I want you to, like, imagine, so we have the grid that we've talked about, the one you pay for, and then there's, like, the grid with a capital G. The grid that is the flow of energy. Because that's what this is, right? Electricity, it's a current, it's a flow, it's a disruption, right? The sun comes and the rain falls and the plants grow and the animals eat that and the spirits are all around us and we eat the plants and the animals and we die and become a spirit and become the soil. It's an energy flow. It's a grid. So what I'm talking about living off the grid while living on the grid is about choosing to plug in to the capital G big grid. And this can be done at the same time as relying on some of the services that are paid for in the, like, lowercase g little grid. So, wow, I want to be clear, like, I'm not saying if you just, like, go and be, like, naked in the snow right now, everything will be fine and, you know, you don't need running water, you wimp. Like, no. Like, it's really jacked up that people don't have access to clean, potable water, that hospitals don't have water right now. That is not okay. And pretending that there's some way to, like, just ignore all that and run off into the woods, I don't think that's the answer. But what I think the answer is bringing a presence of mind and a presence of heart and most of all a presence of body to the reality that there is a bigger grid of which we are a part, and to really be connected to that source of energy and that flow. And so that's what we're going to be talking about in this series. And with that idea of, you know, the capital G big grid, and it not being about self-sufficiency and, you know, complete independence, the rugged individual, like, think about like a traffic. Okay, let's think about traffic. If you're driving and, like, I need to get from here to the big city, I can take the freeway, I can take the back roads, I can take that other back road, I can take some combination of freeway and back roads. There's a number of different ways. Shoot, when you tell your phone, tell me which way to go. It's like, which way you want to go, this way, this way, this way, and you, like, that's the one I want, right? Redundancy. There are multiple ways. There are more than one option for how to travel. And that is something that I want us to bring to the forefront of these conversations, is where is there an opportunity to create redundancy where it doesn't already exist. So as you're going through your day and noticing, when am I using electricity? Where is my food coming from? How am I relying on, you know, this car for transportation? Where's my health care coming from? How do I get, you know, the clothes that I'm wearing? All of these different things that come through the little g grid. Think about, you know, what might happen if one of those links was broken, if, you know, the freeway is closed and you have to take the back road. Is there a back road? Do you know your way on the back road? And if there is no alternative, that's maybe a place to think about creating some other possibilities, because self-sufficiency is just, it's not the way to go. I will tell you, I am a single mom of 4 kids. I cannot do this alone myself in the woods. It is by being connected in multiple places with multiple people with many layers and just a complex web, which is what we see in nature, right? It's not the food chain, it's the food web. You remember that from, like, 3rd grade? Like, it's really about connectiveness, interconnectedness, and socially especially. So that's the other place to start noticing, and we'll talk about that more maybe another time. But, you know, who else is in this with you, and who else might you connect to? Because your network plus their network plus theirs plus theirs plus theirs plus theirs, it benefits everybody to be connected, right? The more connections we have, the more opportunities there are for that redundancy, so that it's not like a single point of failure where if my water goes out, I'm just without water. Like, what are some ways that I can have many, many ways to get water? Let's end there with water and pick that up. Oh, you are so done! He is so done. Must be time. Next time I want to talk about sunlight, so we'll come back to water and sunlight later. All right. Be well, always. Can you say bye? He's like, I've had enough of this. Bye.